If you're a counselor or therapist, there are so many ways to get your student loans forgiven that you probably don't even know about all of them, to be honest. So, I'm going to show you 5 key ways that you could get your student loans wiped away if you're a counselor, therapist, or other mental health professional. And I think you're going to be really shocked at how little you could pay on your student loans if you use any one of these 5. The first big program to know about is public service loan forgiveness. This is a program that is baked into the law. You have to have 60 votes in the Senate to get rid of it. This is where you pay a percent of your income, usually 10% of your income, for 10 years, and then any remaining balance is forgiven at the end of 10 years. So this public service loan forgiveness program is probably the best path to get forgiveness as a counselor. It is something that not everybody will qualify for because you do have to be working for a not-for-profit or government employer full-time. Some people are going to be working part-time. Other people will be working perhaps in their own practice. And some people might be just working for a for-profit employer. Let's say you're a counselor for a, private company, for example, then you wouldn't qualify for public service loan forgiveness. Now, another option for forgiveness is income-driven repayment. So there's different types of programs here. You could do a lot of different types of income-driven repayment. There's multiple different types of plans. Pretty much all of them are 20 to 25 years. And this is something that would apply to you regardless of what kind of employment that you have. So you could be doing no employment, you could be doing part-time, you could be doing full-time, you could be doing private sector. This is a very broad type of forgiveness that really anyone can get. And if you look at the typical incomes for counselors, a lot of counselors could pay a very modest amount of money for 20 or 25 years, where if you have any significant debt at all, then it might actually be a pretty cheap option. Maybe a lot even cheaper than you realized. Third option for mental health counselors and other therapist professionals is National Health Service Corps. There's certain types of places out there where you could go work potentially for a high need area. It's a formal program. You have to apply for it, and then they will give you a certain amount of money towards your loans. Sometimes, depends on what the budget stuff is, but maybe about $50,000 up to that amount. And this is worth applying, especially if you have a modest amount of debt. You think that maybe 10 years is too long for you. You don't want to wait that full period to get public service loan forgiveness. Then the National Health Service Corps might be something that you might be interested in. And then there's some state programs for mental health counselors. There's a huge need out there. I shouldn't say just mental health counselors, counselors of any stripe. There's a huge need out there for counselors, and states sometimes have special programs specifically to incentivize counselors to work in that particular state. So to figure out if you potentially could qualify, you might want to just go ahead and take the state name where you live, add in counselors, add in loan forgiveness, and see if there's any, current programs. To be honest, a lot of the blog posts on this kind of stuff are often very outdated, or they often rely on data that is, from like the Affordable Care Act era, when, some of these programs are defunct, no longer exist. So it is important to see, is this program still active? Can you still actually get it? You have to maybe go through a little bit of extra research to verify, and then maybe reach out to whoever runs the program. Usually there's an email associated with these state programs that you can email and ask. And then employer programs. Some employers do offer some amount of, student loan sort of matching, right, or student loan assistance. You want to make sure that this is actually helpful and not harmful. In some situations, employers might be able to contribute a tax-free contribution towards your student loans, but they actually have to have a formal program set up for that. Some employers also will allow you to count student loan payments towards, matching amounts for your retirement contributions as well. So there are some programs out there that will help you pay down your student loans from employers. I personally think that these are not all that helpful compared to some of the ones out there. If we look at an example real quick of a counselor that might get public service loan forgiveness, this is a calculator we made. Let's say you have let's just say you have 100,000 of student loans from a fairly expensive master's program, and let's say you make about $60,000 a year. So if we look at your payments under something like the legacy repay or pay programs, it's about $300 a month under that scenario. With the save program, it's about $200 a month, and then with the old IBR program, which is one that people would only use as a last resort, that's about $500 a month. So if you kind of extrapolate and look at public service loan forgiveness, you could pay as little as $30,000 over 10 years in this case, and that's without even optimizing this. There's a lot of things you can do in terms of your tax filing status, in terms of when you file your tax returns, etc., that you could use to even lower that number. But if you think about potentially paying only $30,000 back, even having $100,000 of debt, It's pretty clear that even if you are making, a modest income as a counselor, you can still get really good, optimized forgiveness, and that'll save you a ton of money. And student loan planner, what we do is provide student loan plans for people for a few $100. So if you want to get a customized plan, just go to studentloanplanner.com/book. Generally speaking, we're going to pay for our consult fee in multiples just because of just the benefits of optimizing things and figuring out, which of these 5 programs do you benefit from the most? And then also, how do you optimize each of these programs? And sometimes these programs interact with one another. So that's an important thing to think about too. You might have public service loan forgiveness, but you also might have a state or employer program or National Health Service Corps that you also qualify for. So this can get pretty complicated in a hurry. So anyways, hopefully you were able to find these 5 ways to get forgiveness interesting as a counselor. If you have any thoughts or questions or comments about getting forgiveness as a counselor, please put them in the comments. And thank you so much for watching.